Fever down! Bow, bow, bow!
Hey, Dub!
Yes, sir! Dub.
The Las Vegas Aces dynasty was supposed to be untouchable, a well-oiled machine destined for another championship. But in one shocking night, their entire empire was shaken to its core, not by the player everyone expected, but by the one they forgot to fear. Aaliyah Boston didn't just have a good game, she ripped the crown right off Aja Wilson's head, and the WNBA will never be the same. This wasn't just a win for the Indiana Fever, it was a statement that sent shockwaves through the entire league, proving that even the most dominant champions can bleed.
In the chat! Back to Sin City. One more. We can do it.
I'm not giving.
One more.
Y'all know what time it is. This is what we do.
This wasn't the quiet team-first Aaliyah Boston fans were used to seeing. From the opening tip, something was different. She walked onto that court with a chilling intensity, looking to impose her will on the so-called MVP. Boston wasn't just setting screens and waiting for the ball. She was demanding it, attacking the paint with a ferocity that left the Aces stunned. She finished with a monster line of 24 points, 14 boards, 5 assists, and 4 combined steals and blocks. But the numbers don't tell the story of her sheer dominance. Every basket felt like a body blow to Vegas, and every trip to the free throw line drained their confidence. This was a metamorphosis, a player deciding she was done being a supporting character in someone else's story.
I'm so impressed because every single time we thought the Indiana Fever were going to blow the lead. Every single time I thought the Fever were going to blow the lead. They just came back and, you know, won the game. They came back and made a...
The main event was always going to be Boston versus Aja Wilson, a battle of two of the league's premier bigs. And while Wilson put up her usual MVP numbers with 31 points and a flurry of defensive plays, she was playing a game of skill while Boston was fighting a war. For every smooth jumper Wilson hit, Boston answered with a bruising post move or a relentless drive that forced the whistle. You could see the frustration building in Wilson's eyes as she realized she couldn't physically stop Boston one-on-one. Boston didn't just outplay Wilson, she outmuscled and outwilled her, making the reigning MVP look mortal for the first time all season.
We over me. That's been our identity the entire season. We all we got, we all we need. And we've stuck with it. I think the beauty of this squad, whether you're hurt or not, like everything that you do is for the betterment of this team, for every win, and that's really how we approach every single day in practice, how we approach film, how we approach every game, and so I definitely say that's what it is.
But this stunning upset wasn't a solo act. While Boston was the battering ram, the rest of the Fever brought the daggers. The Aces planned for one or two threats, but they weren't ready for a full squad assault. Odyssey Sims came out of nowhere with 18 points on hyper-efficient shooting, using a filthy handle to turn Vegas defenders into statues. Then there was Lexie Hull, the grinder who may not light up the scoreboard, but whose 4 steals and relentless defense on the Aces guards created the chaos Indiana needed to thrive. She was the irritant, the pest, who made sure Vegas never found a rhythm. While the supporting cast was incredible, Kelsey Mitchell deserves her own chapter. For years, she has been the lone bright spot on a struggling Fever team, the silent killer who kept fighting even when the wins weren't there. Tonight, she showed the world what Fever fans have known all along. She is a cold-blooded assassin. Mitchell dropped 25 points, hitting clutch shots every time the Aces tried to make a run. Her pull-up jumper late in the third quarter was pure ice. When Vegas threw double teams at her, she made the right play. When they gave her an inch of space, she took a mile. She wasn't just a scorer tonight, she was the team's emotional leader, the steady hand that refused to let her team fold under pressure. Now let's talk about the number that has the entire league buzzing, 34-11. That was the final free throw attempt count in favor of the Indiana Fever. You can bet the Aces and their fans are screaming robbery, claiming the refs handed the game to Indiana. They'll say the league wants its new stars in the finals. But the truth is much simpler and far more damning for Vegas. The Fever attacked the basket relentlessly, forcing contact and making the referees blow the whistle. They lived in the paint. The Aces, on the other hand, settled for jumpers and complained when they didn't get calls. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was a difference in philosophy, a classic case of aggression versus passivity. This loss has to be Becky Hammon's worst nightmare. As a coach celebrated for her brilliant offensive schemes and championship pedigree, she was thoroughly outmaneuvered. Her game plan seemed to have no answer for Boston's aggression, and her adjustments were either too late or ineffective. The Aces looked disjointed and unprepared for a physical fight, a shocking indictment of a team known for its toughness. As Indiana's lead grew, the cameras panned to Hammond, who looked utterly bewildered. For one of the sharpest minds in basketball, she had been completely outcoached, and her team's lack of discipline on defense led directly to that lopsided free throw count. For weeks, fans and analysts have criticized the Fever's coaching staff for using Aaliyah Boston like a glorified role player, having her set dribble handoffs 25 feet from the basket. Tonight, that all changed. The game plan was simple: feed the beast. Coach Cecily White finally put Boston in positions to dominate. They put Boston on the block, let her go to work, and dared the Aces to find an answer. When Vegas sent a double team, Boston calmly found the open shooter, racking up 5 assists. This wasn't just a great performance. It was proof that when the offense runs through Boston, the Fever become a legitimate championship contender. It was a coaching masterstroke at the perfect time. With this single loss, the impenetrable armor of the Las Vegas Aces has been shattered. They looked slow, predictable, and mentally rattled. Their offense became a one-woman show, with Asia Wilson trying to carry the entire team on her back while her star teammates went missing. They looked like a team that believed its own hype, one that expected to walk into the arena and be handed a victory. But the Fever didn't roll over. They punched back, and the Aces had no idea how to respond. This loss exposed a deep vulnerability in the defending champs, their over-reliance on talent and their lack of a backup plan when things get tough. And no player's disappearance was more glaring than that of Kelsey Plum. A player known for her fiery offense and dagger three-pointers was a complete non-factor. She was a ghost on the court, unable to create her own shot or impact the game in any meaningful way. Her disappearing act put immense pressure on Wilson and forced the Aces' offense into a predictable one-dimensional attack. When a team's second or third option completely vanishes in a playoff game, it's a recipe for disaster. Plum's shocking no-show is one of the biggest reasons the Aces are now on the brink of elimination. And then there's the Caitlin Clark effect. While she didn't have a monster scoring night, her fingerprints were all over this victory. Every time she had the ball, 2 defenders were in her orbit, terrified of her 30-foot range. That constant defensive attention is what creates the wide-open lanes for Sims to drive, and what prevents Vegas from sending immediate double teams to Boston in the post. Clark is a walking tactical advantage. Her gravity bends the entire defense, and without it, this historic upset might never have happened. She is the ultimate decoy, a player whose threat is just as valuable as her actual production on any given night. Suddenly, the path to defeating the league's juggernaut is crystal clear. It starts with Boston's relentless interior pressure, forcing defenses to collapse. It's balanced by Mitchell's clutch perimeter scoring, which punishes teams for helping too much inside, and it's all made possible by Clark's floor spacing, which creates opportunities for everyone else. Add in the defensive grit from players like Lexie Hull, and you have the perfect formula to dethrone a dynasty. Indiana didn't just win a game, they exposed the blueprint for the entire league to see. You could almost feel the panic setting in on the Aces bench as the game slipped away. This is a team accustomed to blowing opponents out, not getting punched in the mouth by a younger, hungrier squad. They looked to the refs for help. They bickered amongst themselves and their usual swagger evaporated. The Fever didn't just beat them on the scoreboard, they broke their composure. That kind of mental edge is priceless in a playoff series and could be the deciding factor moving forward. This is how empires fall. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, stunning loss of belief. This victory is so much sweeter when you remember where the Indiana Fever came from. For years, this franchise was the league's punching bag, a team stuck in a perpetual cycle of losing and irrelevance. Fans endured empty arenas and endless rebuilding seasons with little hope in sight. Now they are watching their team, led by 2 of the brightest young stars in the world, stand 1 win away from the WNBA Finals. This isn't just a playoff run, it's a franchise resurrection. It's a reward for the fans who never gave up and a sign that years of suffering are finally over. Of course, the whispers have already started. Did the WNBA get the result it secretly wanted? A finals matchup featuring Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston would be a ratings goldmine, a passing of the torch to the next generation. The massive free throw disparity will only add fuel to that fire, with conspiracy theorists claiming the league is pushing its new stars to the forefront. Whether it's true or not, the narrative is powerful. The old guard is being pushed aside for the new faces of the league, and some will argue the officials are helping it happen. Now all eyes turn back to Las Vegas. How will the defending champions respond? Will they spend the next 48 hours complaining to the media about the officiating, making excuses for their flat performance? Or will they go back to the drawing board, make the necessary adjustments, and come out with the fire and desperation of a team whose dynasty is on the line? Their legacy is at stake. Another performance like this, and they won't just lose the series. They will be remembered as the champions who are too proud to adapt when a new challenger rose to meet them. This game was more than just one win in a playoff series. It was a seismic shift in the WNBA's landscape. Aaliyah Boston announced her arrival as a true superstar, a player who can go head-to-head with the best and come out on top. The Indiana Fever prove they are no longer the league's lovable underdogs. They are legitimate giant slayers. The Aces now face an elimination game, not just against the Fever, but against the terrifying idea that their era of dominance might be coming to a sudden and shocking end. A new era is dawning, and it might be arriving much sooner than anyone expected.